I never thought blowing things up would lead me to love. But there I was at 2 a.m., scrolling through entomology forums like some kind of bug-obsessed maniac. The irony wasn't lost on me. Madison Hughes, demolition expert, getting excited about tiny creatures that survive my explosions. It started 3 weeks ago when I posted photos of beetles I'd found at construction sites. Most people thought I was crazy for noticing insects while setting charges, but something about their resilience fascinated me. They'd scatter during the blast, then return to rebuild their lives in the rubble. That's when she appeared. Claire's specimens replied to my post with a detailed analysis that made my heart skip. She identified every species correctly and suggested preservation techniques that showed real expertise. Her messages were thoughtful, intelligent, nothing like the usual forum trolls. "These shots are incredible," she wrote. "You've captured the Carabidae family in their natural habitat disruption. Most people never notice the beauty in destruction." I stared at my laptop screen in my Bakersfield apartment, surrounded by demolition manuals and blast calculations. Someone finally understood. Our conversations evolved quickly from technical discussions to personal revelations. She told me about her work as an insect specimen curator, how she found art in preserving delicate life forms. I shared stories of controlled explosions, the precision required to bring down buildings without harming surrounding structures. "There's poetry in both our professions," she messaged one night. "You create controlled chaos while I capture permanent stillness." Her words hit something deep inside me. Every woman I'd dated before complained about my dangerous job, my odd hours, my obsession with technical perfection. Claire saw beauty in it. Late-night messages turned into hour-long video calls. Her face appeared on my screen for the first time. Brunette hair framing intelligent green eyes. A soft smile that made my pulse quicken. She worked in a museum workshop surrounded by display cases filled with butterflies and beetles, their wings caught in eternal flight. "I've never met anyone who appreciates both destruction and preservation," she said during one call, her voice warm with curiosity. "Maybe because most people think they're opposites," I replied, leaning closer to my camera. "But they're not. You can't preserve something without first understanding how fragile it is." She tilted her head, studying me through the screen. "And you can't destroy something properly without respecting what you're taking apart." The connection was undeniable. We shared photos constantly. My controlled explosions revealing hidden insect colonies, her intricate specimen arrangements that looked like natural art installations. Each image came with detailed explanations that showed how much we both cared about our craft. 3 weeks of digital chemistry led to the question I'd been wanting to ask. "Would you like to meet in person?" I typed, my finger hovering over send. Her response came immediately. "I thought you'd never ask." As I planned the 3-hour drive to her museum, I couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting would change everything. Claire wasn't just another online connection. She was someone who saw beauty in my world of calculated destruction, someone who might understand the precision and passion that drove my every professional move. Little did I know that our first kiss would happen surrounded by her preserved specimens, or that our love story would involve actual explosions before it was over. The drive to Claire's museum felt endless. 3 hours of highway gave me too much time to overthink everything. What if our online chemistry didn't translate to real life? What if I'd built up impossible expectations? I pulled into the Natural History Museum parking lot 20 minutes early, hands shaking as I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. My blonde hair looked decent, blue eyes bright with nervous energy. I'd chosen simple jeans and a fitted black jacket, professional but approachable. The museum lobby smelled like old wood and preservation chemicals. Claire appeared from a side hallway before I could announce myself, and my breath caught. Photos hadn't captured her presence. The way she moved with quiet confidence, how her green eyes lit up when she spotted me. "Madison?" Her voice carried that same warmth I'd heard over video calls. "Guilty as charged." I managed a smile, feeling awkward suddenly. "You're even more beautiful in person." She blushed, tucking a strand of brunette hair behind her ear. "Come on, let me show you where the magic happens." Her workshop occupied the museum's basement, a climate-controlled sanctuary filled with specimen cases and preservation equipment. The space felt intimate, like stepping into her private world. Butterflies and beetles lined the walls in perfect rows, their wings catching fluorescent light. "This is incredible," I breathed, moving closer to examine a display case. "The detail work is amazing." Claire stepped beside me, our shoulders almost touching. This morpho butterfly took 6 hours to mount properly. See how the wing positioning creates that illusion of movement? Her passion was infectious. As she explained her preservation techniques, I found myself watching her hands more than the specimens. Delicate fingers that could handle the most fragile creatures with absolute precision. "Your turn," she said, leading me to another case. "Tell me about controlled demolition." I launched into an explanation of blast patterns and structural weak points, surprised by how attentively she listened. Most people's eyes glazed over when I talked shop, but Claire asked intelligent questions that showed genuine interest. "So you're basically an artist who works with explosives," she said, leaning against the workbench. "Never thought of it that way, but yeah." I moved closer, drawn by her smile. "You preserve beauty, I reveal it by taking things apart." The air between us shifted, charged with possibility. Claire's breathing quickened as I stepped into her personal space, close enough to smell her perfume, something light and floral that suited her perfectly. "I've been thinking about this moment for weeks," she whispered. "Just thinking?" I reached up to touch her cheek, marveling at how soft her skin felt. Among other things. Her eyes dropped to my lips. The first kiss happened slowly, tentatively. Her lips were warm and willing, responding with a hunger that matched my own. My hands found her waist as she pressed closer, and suddenly 3 weeks of digital flirtation exploded into something real and electric. We broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads touching. "Damn," I whispered. "That was worth the drive." Claire laughed, her fingers tracing my collar. "I was so nervous you wouldn't feel the same connection in person." "Are you kidding? You're even more amazing than I imagined." She glanced around her workshop, surrounded by hundreds of preserved specimens frozen in time. "It's fitting, don't you think, our first kiss happening here among all these captured moments?" I pulled her closer, already wanting to kiss her again. "Maybe we should create a few more moments worth preserving." Her answering smile promised exactly that. After weeks of wondering what it would feel like to hold her, to taste her lips, the reality exceeded every fantasy. Claire wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant, passionate, and completely captivated by the same precision that drove my professional life. As we headed upstairs for coffee, her hand warm in mine, I realized this was just the beginning. Our online connection had been the foundation, but this physical chemistry combined with intellectual compatibility, this was something that could build into forever. The afternoon stretched ahead of us, full of possibilities I'd only dreamed about during those late-night video calls. 2 weeks after our museum meeting, I convinced Claire to join me at a demolition site outside Bakersfield. She'd never seen a controlled explosion up close, and I wanted to share my world with her the way she'd shared hers. "Stay behind this barrier," I instructed, handing her safety gear and a camera. "The blast happens in 30 seconds. Then you'll have maybe 10 minutes before the dust settles to photograph any insects that scatter." Claire adjusted her hard hat, excitement bright in her green eyes. "I can't believe I'm doing this." "Trust me, it's incredible." I checked my detonator one final time. "You're about to see destruction as art." The abandoned warehouse had been scheduled for demolition for months. I'd spent days calculating the precise charge placement to bring it down cleanly, creating the controlled chaos that was my signature. "Fire in the hole," I called out, pressing the trigger. The explosion was perfect, a symphony of sequential charges that brought the structure down in a cascade of concrete and steel. Claire's camera clicked rapidly as clouds of dust revealed beetles and spiders scurrying for new shelter. "That was amazing," she shouted over the settling debris. "The way you orchestrated every detail, it's like watching a choreographed performance." Her enthusiasm made my chest tight with pride. No one had ever described my work as beautiful before, but Claire saw artistry where others saw destruction. That evening, she invited me to her apartment for the first time. The space reflected her personality perfectly, organized yet warm, with specimen displays integrated seamlessly into her living room decor. Books on entomology lined the shelves, and soft lighting made everything feel intimate. "Wine?" she offered, moving toward the kitchen. "Please." I settled onto her couch, nervous energy thrumming through me. The attraction between us had been building for weeks, and being alone in her private space felt charged with possibility. Claire returned with 2 glasses, sitting close enough that our knees touched. "Tell me about your first demolition job." "You really want to hear about work?" I asked, surprised. "I want to know everything about you." Her hand found mine, fingers interlacing. "Your job isn't just what you do, it's who you are, the precision, the responsibility, the way you see structural relationships that others miss." Her understanding touched something deep inside me. I'd always been drawn to women, but most of my relationships had been casual, lacking the intellectual connection I craved. Claire was different. She saw my profession as an extension of my personality rather than an obstacle to intimacy. "I've never met anyone like you," I admitted, bringing her hand to my lips. "Someone who appreciates controlled explosions? Someone who gets me." I set our wine glasses aside, unable to resist touching her face. "You see beauty in things other people overlook." She leaned into my touch, eyes fluttering closed. "Like you do with those insect photos." The kiss that followed was deeper than our first, full of weeks of pent-up desire. Claire responded with a passion that made my pulse race, her hands fisting in my jacket as she pulled me closer. "Madison," she whispered against my lips, my name sounding like a prayer. We moved together toward her bedroom, shedding clothes and inhibitions with equal urgency. Claire's skin was pale and soft, marked by tiny freckles I wanted to map with my tongue. She was beautiful in ways that made my breath catch, confident in her own body, generous with her responses. Our lovemaking was intense but tender, a perfect blend of passion and discovery. Claire moved beneath me with fluid grace, her fingers threading through my hair as I explored the sensitive spots that made her gasp. She tasted like wine and possibility, and every touch sent electricity through my nerve endings. Afterward, we lay tangled in her sheets, skin still flushed and breathing gradually slowing. Claire traced patterns on my shoulder, her touch light but possessive. "That was—" she started, then shook her head. "I don't have words." "Explosive?" I suggested, earning a laugh that vibrated against my chest. "Perfect," she corrected, tilting her head to meet my eyes. "Absolutely perfect." I pulled her closer, marveling at how right this felt. Everything about Claire complimented me. Her calm to my intensity, her preservation instincts to my destructive skills, her gentle strength to my protective nature. "Stay tonight?" she asked, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "Try to make me leave," I replied, sealing the promise with a kiss. As Claire fell asleep in my arms, I realized that all my careful calculations and controlled explosions had led me to this moment, to her. Sometimes the most beautiful things emerged from the most unexpected combinations. 3 weeks into whatever this was becoming, Claire and I fell into a comfortable rhythm. She'd spend weekends at my place, surrounded by technical manuals and blast calculations, while I'd crash at her apartment during weeknights, falling asleep to the soft hum of climate control systems preserving her specimens. "I need to tell you something," I said one morning, making coffee in her kitchen. The words had been building for days, and I couldn't hold back anymore. Claire looked up from her laptop, where she'd been cataloging new acquisitions. "Sounds serious." "I've never been in a relationship like this before." I handed her a mug, sitting across from her at the small dining table. "Most women I've dated couldn't handle the danger in my job, the unpredictable hours, the fact that I work with explosives." She reached for my hand, thumb stroking across my knuckles. "And?" "You actually seem to find it attractive." I laughed, still amazed by her reaction. When I told my ex about diffusing unexploded ordnance, she freaked out. "You asked for photos." "Because it's fascinating," Claire said simply. You work with forces that could kill you instantly, but you're so precise, so careful. There's something incredibly appealing about that level of control and confidence. Her words made my chest warm. I've always been drawn to women who understand precision. My job requires split-second timing, perfect calculations. I guess I need that same attention to detail in my personal life. Is that why we work? She asked, genuine curiosity in her green eyes. Partly. I leaned back, studying her face. But it's more than professional compatibility. You're patient where I'm impulsive, calm where I'm intense. You see beauty in preservation while I find it in controlled destruction. We balance each other. Claire smiled, that soft expression that made my heart skip. I've been thinking the same thing. I've dated women who thought my job was boring or weird, spending hours mounting tiny insects, working with dead specimens. You see it as art. Because it is art. I stood, moving around the table to sit beside her. The way you position those butterfly wings, the precision in your mounting techniques. It's incredible craftsmanship. She leaned into me, her head finding the hollow of my shoulder. I never expected to fall for someone whose job involves blowing things up. Fall for? I repeated, heart stuttering at her word choice. Shit. Claire pulled back, cheeks flushing. I didn't mean to say that out loud. Good thing you did. I cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbones. Because I'm falling for you too. Hard. The kiss that followed tasted like coffee and promises. When we broke apart, Claire's eyes were bright with something that looked suspiciously like tears. I want to plan that camping trip we talked about, she said suddenly. Combine your outdoor demolition work with my field collection. Make it our thing. Our thing? I grinned, loving how that sounded. Madison and Claire's Wilderness Adventures. You can photograph insects at blast sites while I collect specimens for the museum. The idea of combining our professional passions into shared experiences made everything feel more real, more permanent. Where were you thinking? There's a mountain area about 2 hours north. Old mining sites perfect for controlled demolitions, and the elevation changes create diverse insect habitats. I was already mentally calculating equipment needs, permits required, safety protocols for bringing Claire to active blast sites. When do we leave? Next weekend? Her excitement was infectious. I'll pack collection gear and camping equipment. You handle the explosive permits and safety measures. Deal. I sealed it with another kiss, already looking forward to sharing both our worlds in the wilderness setting. As Claire returned to her laptop and I planned demolition logistics, I realized how naturally we'd started thinking as a team. Individual interests becoming shared adventures, separate apartments becoming connected spaces we moved between seamlessly. This wasn't just physical attraction or intellectual compatibility anymore. This was building towards something lasting. Something worth the risk of admitting I was falling in love with a woman who found beauty in my dangerous profession. The camping trip would be our first real test, spending extended time together away from familiar environments, combining work with pleasure in ways that could either strengthen our bond or reveal incompatibilities we'd overlooked. I was betting on the former. The mountain campsite was perfect, remote enough for my demolition work, diverse enough for Claire's specimen collection. We'd spent the morning setting up camp and surveying an old mining structure I'd been contracted to clear. The beetle diversity here is incredible, Claire said, crouched near a fallen log with her magnifying glass. I've already spotted 3 species I've never collected before. I finished checking my equipment one final time. Ready to see some controlled chaos? Always. She grinned, shouldering her camera and collection kit. The abandoned mining shed required delicate handling, close enough to hiking trails that precision was crucial. I'd spent an hour placing charges exactly where they'd bring down the structure without damaging surrounding trees or disturbing the creek bed. This one's for you, I called out, finger hovering over the detonator. 3, 2, 1! The explosion was clean and beautiful, the shed collapsing in on itself like a house of cards. Claire's camera clicked rapidly as insects scattered from the debris, and I felt that familiar rush of professional satisfaction. Incredible, she shouted over the settling dust. Look at all the specimens I can collect from the disturbed habitat. We spent the next hour in our respective elements. Me photographing the blast pattern for my client report. Claire carefully collecting beetles and moths that had been displaced by the explosion. This was exactly what I'd hoped for. Our passions complementing each other perfectly. That's when the black SUVs appeared. Madison, get down! I yelled, instinctively throwing myself toward Claire as armed men emerged from the vehicles. Too late. The man in front, tall with graying hair and cold eyes, already had his weapon trained on us. Madison Hughes? His voice carried authority and menace. You're coming with us. I think you've got the wrong person, I said, hands raised, mind racing through escape options. Demolition expert, blonde hair, blue eyes. You match the description perfectly. He gestured to his associates. Grab them both. Wait, she's not involved in whatever this is. I stepped protectively in front of Claire. Let her go. Afraid that's not how this works. Before I could react, something hard struck the back of my head, and everything went black. I woke up bound to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, head pounding and vision blurry. Claire sat tied up beside me, her green eyes wide with fear but alert. You okay? I whispered. Scared but unharmed, she replied quietly. They think you're someone else. The gray-haired man appeared from the shadows, flanked by two associates. Ms. Hughes, my employer is very unhappy about your recent consulting work. I have no idea what you're talking about. I kept my voice steady despite the terror coursing through me. I do legitimate demolition work with proper permits. Don't play dumb. The illegal mining operation in Nevada, the explosives you provided to circumvent federal regulations. That wasn't me! The pieces clicked together suddenly. You want Madison Hopkins, the explosives trafficker from Las Vegas. I'm Madison Hughes from Bakersfield. His eyes narrowed. Prove it. Check my licenses, my client list, my employment records. I work for construction companies, not criminals. While he conferred with his associates, I caught Claire's eye. She was studying our surroundings with the same analytical focus she brought to her specimens, noting details that could help us escape. The rope knots are standard sailing hitches, she murmured, barely audible. I can work mine loose given time. The building structure's compromised, I whispered back, noting the stress cracks in the concrete walls. Water damage has weakened the support beams. Claire's eyes lit up with understanding. If we could create the right kind of disturbance, we might bring down part of the ceiling. My camping gear, I continued softly. The signal flares in my backpack could work as improvised charges if combined with the propane canisters. How long do you need? Claire asked, already working at her restraints. 5 minutes to rig something basic. The kidnappers were still arguing about my identity, giving us precious time. Claire's patient, precise movements gradually loosened her ropes, while I mentally calculated the explosive potential of our camping supplies. Got it, she breathed, hands free, but still positioned to look bound. When the gray-haired man turned back toward us, Claire suddenly rolled sideways, knocking over a metal chair that clattered loudly across the concrete floor. In the confusion, I threw myself toward my backpack while she tackled the nearest guard's legs. Run! I shouted, grabbing flares and propane canisters. We sprinted toward the warehouse exit, as shouts erupted behind us. I twisted the valve on a propane canister, lit a flare, and hurled both toward the weakened support beam I'd identified earlier. The explosion wasn't huge, but it was enough. Part of the ceiling collapsed with a thunderous crash, blocking our pursuers and giving us the head start we needed to reach Claire's car. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. Detective Martinez led us through our statements for the third time, his expression growing more sympathetic with each repetition. So this was a case of mistaken identity, he confirmed, closing his notepad. The real Madison Hopkins was arrested in Vegas 2 hours ago. These guys grabbed the wrong demolition expert. I squeezed Claire's hand, relief flooding through me. What happens now? You're free to go. We'll need formal statements tomorrow. but you're not in any danger. The entire operation's been shut down." In the parking lot, Claire finally broke down. The tears she'd been holding back during 6 hours of questioning came in shuddering waves, and I pulled her into my arms. "It's over," I whispered, stroking her hair. "We're safe." "I was so scared," she sobbed against my shoulder. "When they hit you, when you went unconscious, I thought I might lose you before we even figured out what this was between us." Her words hit me harder than any physical blow. "Hey, look at me!" I cupped her face, wiping away tears with my thumbs. "I'm not going anywhere. What we did back there, working together to escape, that proved something important." "What?" "That we're a team. Your analytical mind, my explosive knowledge, we saved each other." Claire's laugh was shaky but genuine. "I never thought my specimen preservation skills would help in a kidnapping situation." Those knot untying techniques were impressive. I kissed her forehead, tasting salt from her tears. "And the way you distracted them while I rigged the charges. Perfect timing." "I just followed your lead." She leaned into me, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. "Oh God, Madison, I could have lost you today." The raw emotion in her voice made my chest tight. "But you didn't. We got out together, and now we know we can handle anything." The drive back to Bakersfield passed in comfortable silence, Claire's hand resting on my thigh while I navigated the familiar highways. Every few minutes I'd catch her watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "What?" I asked finally. "I'm just thinking about how you protected me. When they first appeared, your instinct was to shield me with your own body." "Of course it was." The question surprised me. "Claire, I'm falling in love with you. Of course I'd protect you." She went very still. "Falling in love?" "Yeah." I kept my eyes on the road, heart hammering. "Today made me realize how much you mean to me. The thought of something happening to you, of losing what we're building together, it terrified me more than any explosive ever has." Claire was quiet for so long I started to worry I'd said too much, revealed feelings she wasn't ready to hear. Then her hand found mine on the gear shift. "I love you too," she said softly. "I think I have for weeks, but I was afraid to say it." The words hit me like a controlled detonation, spreading warmth through my entire body. "Really?" "Really." She brought my hand to her lips, pressing a gentle kiss to my knuckles. "When we get home, I want to show you exactly how much." "Home." She'd said, home like my apartment belonged to both of us now. Once inside, Claire led me straight to the bedroom, her movements urgent but tender. She undressed me slowly, hands trembling slightly as she traced the bruises left by our ordeal. "I need to feel you," she whispered, lips following the path her fingers had mapped. "I need to know you're really here, really safe." Our lovemaking was intense and desperate, fueled by the adrenaline crash and emotional revelation. Claire moved above me with fluid grace, her eyes never leaving mine as we moved together toward release. Every touch felt like a promise, every kiss a celebration of survival. Afterward, we lay entwined in my sheets, skin still flushed and breathing gradually slowing. Claire traced circles on my chest, her touch possessive and gentle. "We survived a kidnapping on our first camping trip," she said, laughter threading through her voice. "What does that say about our relationship? That we're either very unlucky or very strong." I tightened my arms around her. "I'm betting on strong." "Me too." She tilted her head to meet my eyes. "I love you, Madison Hughes. Explosives, danger and all. I love you too, Claire Jenkins. Even if dating you means getting mistaken for criminals." Her answering laugh vibrated against my chest, and I realized that surviving trauma together had accelerated something that might have taken months to develop naturally. We'd seen each other under extreme pressure and chosen to protect rather than abandon each other. That kind of foundation could support anything. The phone call came 3 weeks after our escape, just as Claire and I were settling into a new normal. I was reviewing blast calculations when my supervisor's voice cracked through the speaker. "Madison, we need to talk. My office, now." 20 minutes later, I sat across from Jim Patterson, watching his weathered face deliver the worst possible news. The kidnapping incident has triggered a federal investigation into all your recent projects, he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk. Until they clear you completely, you're suspended pending review. Suspended? My voice came out sharper than intended. Jim, I was the victim here. They grabbed the wrong person. I know that, and you know that, but the feds don't care. Madison Hopkins used similar techniques to yours, worked with the same types of explosives. They need to verify every project you've touched in the past 2 years. The implications hit me like a sledgehammer. No work meant no income, and demolition wasn't exactly a field where you could freelance while under federal scrutiny. How long? I asked. Could be months. I'm sorry, Madison. My hands are tied. I drove home in a daze, dreading the conversation I'd have to have with Claire. We'd been talking about moving in together officially, maybe combining our finances. Now I'd be lucky to make rent. Claire was waiting in my kitchen, specimen containers spread across the counter as she organized her latest collections. She took one look at my face and set down her magnifying glass. What happened? I've been suspended pending a federal investigation. The words tasted bitter. Could be out of work for months. Her face went pale. Because of the kidnapping? Because Madison Hopkins and I apparently have similar professional profiles. I slumped into a chair, suddenly exhausted. They need to verify I'm not involved in illegal explosives trafficking. Claire moved behind me, hands settling on my shoulders. We'll figure this out. You have savings, and I make decent money at the museum. That's not the point. I shrugged off her touch, frustration boiling over. I've worked 10 years to build my reputation in this field. Now it's all in jeopardy because some criminal shares my name and profession. Madison? I should have been more careful about that camping trip. Should have researched the area better. If I'd known there was illegal mining activity nearby. Stop. Claire's voice was firm. This isn't your fault. Before I could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the display, expression shifting to something unreadable. Dr. Rodriguez? Yes. I can talk now. I watched Claire's face change as she listened, her free hand gripping the counter edge. When she hung up, she wouldn't meet my eyes. That was my supervisor, she said quietly. The museum board approved my application for the Chicago position. My blood turned to ice. What Chicago position? I applied months ago, before we met. Senior curator of entomology at the Field Museum. It's a huge promotion, double my current salary, my own research budget. And you're just telling me this now? The betrayal cut deeper than the job suspension. I forgot I'd even applied. It was a long shot, and then we started dating, and I never thought they'd actually offer it to me. When do they need an answer? Claire's silence stretched too long. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I stood abruptly, pacing to the window. So while I'm facing career destruction, you get offered your dream job in another state. It's not my dream job. You are. Don't. I spun around, anger and hurt warring in my chest. Don't make this about us when you're clearly considering it. Of course I'm considering it. Madison, this is the opportunity I've worked toward my entire career. The Field Museum has the largest insect collection in North America. And I have nothing to offer you here except unemployment and federal investigation. Claire crossed the room, reaching for my hands. That's not true. We have something real, something worth fighting for. Do we? I pulled away, hurt making me cruel. Because it sounds like you're already planning your exit strategy. That's not fair. Isn't it? 3 weeks ago you said you loved me, that you'd choose me over career advancement. Now you're talking about research budgets and dream opportunities. Tears filled Claire's green eyes. I do love you, but I also have to think practically. If you're out of work for months, if your reputation is damaged permanently, you'd rather cut your losses and run to Chicago. I'd rather have options that don't involve both of us struggling financially while you rebuild your career. The words hung between us like a physical barrier. I understood her logic, even appreciated her honesty, but it still felt like abandonment when I needed her most. I think you should go, I said quietly. Madison. To Chicago. Take the job. It's what you want anyway. Claire's face crumpled. It's not what I want. I want you. But I also want a future that isn't built on uncertainty and federal investigations. Then you've made your choice. She gathered her specimen containers with shaking hands, tears falling freely now. At the door, she turned back. I love you. But I can't build my life around loving someone who might not have a career left to rebuild. The silence after she left was deafening. I sank onto my couch, surrounded by blast calculations and technical manuals that might be worthless if the investigation destroyed my professional credibility. Maybe Claire was right to run. Maybe loving me was just another kind of controlled explosion, beautiful while it lasted, but ultimately destructive. A week without Claire felt like trying to breathe underwater. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text her about random things. A beetle I'd spotted, a perfectly calculated blast sequence, anything that might make her smile. But pride kept my fingers from actually sending the messages. Jake Gray showed up at my apartment uninvited Thursday morning, carrying coffee and the kind of determined expression that meant he wasn't leaving without a conversation. You look like hell, he announced, settling into my kitchen chair like he owned it. Thanks for the pep talk. I accepted the coffee grudgingly. Jake had been my security consultant for 3 years, but somehow we'd drifted into friendship despite my best efforts. When's the last time you showered? Yesterday. Maybe the day before. I honestly couldn't remember. Madison, you're wallowing. It's pathetic. My career's in ruins, and the woman I love chose advancement over us. I think I'm entitled to some wallowing. Jake leaned back, studying me with those sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. You're an idiot. Excuse me? Claire didn't choose advancement over you. She chose security over uncertainty. There's a difference. I started to argue, but he held up a hand. You pushed her away the second things got complicated. Instead of fighting for your relationship, you told her to take the job and run to Chicago. Because that's what she wanted. That's what she thought she had to want. Jake's voice softened slightly. Madison, you've built your entire career on calculated risks. You know the difference between acceptable danger and reckless stupidity. But when it came to Claire, you chose reckless stupidity. Meaning? Meaning you should have fought for her. Should have said, I love you, we'll figure this out together, instead of, fine, leave. His words hit like a physical blow because they were true. I'd been so hurt by Claire's consideration of the Chicago job that I'd sabotaged us before she could reject me. It's too late now, I said quietly. She probably already accepted the position. Actually, she didn't. My head snapped up. How do you know? Because I ran into her at the museum yesterday. She looked as miserable as you do, and when I asked about Chicago, she said she was still deciding. Hope fluttered in my chest like a trapped bird. Still deciding? Madison, that woman loves you, but she's scared you'll choose pride over fighting for what you both want. I stared at my coffee, Jake's words rearranging everything I'd assumed about Claire's motivations. Maybe she wasn't planning her escape. Maybe she was waiting for me to give her a reason to stay. What would you do? I asked. I'd stop being a coward and go get my girl back. 2 hours later, I stood outside the Natural History Museum, heart hammering against my ribs. Through the lobby windows, I could see Claire at the information desk, her brunette hair catching afternoon sunlight as she spoke with visitors. She looked tired, shadows under her green eyes that matched the ones I'd been carrying all week. When she spotted me approaching, her expression shifted through surprise, hope, and wariness in rapid succession. Madison. Her voice was carefully neutral. What are you doing here? Making the biggest mistake of my life into the smartest decision, I said, moving closer despite the public setting. Claire, I love you. Not conditionally, not with requirements about jobs or geography. I love you, period. Madison? I was an ass. When you told me about Chicago, I should have said, we'll figure it out, instead of pushing you away. I reached for her hands, relieved when she didn't pull back. I should have fought for us. Tears filled her eyes. I haven't accepted the position. Why not? Because leaving you would be the stupidest thing I've ever done. Her fingers tightened around mine. The Chicago job is incredible, but it's just a job. You're the love of my life. Even with the federal investigation hanging over my head? Especially then. You think I'd abandon you when things get difficult? Claire stepped closer, lowering her voice. Madison, we survived a kidnapping together. A career setback is nothing compared to that. So, you'll stay? I already turned down Chicago this morning. Her smile was radiant despite the tears. I told them I had more important preservation work to do in Bakersfield. I kissed her right there, in the museum lobby, not caring who saw us. Claire melted against me, her response hungry and relieved, and I realized how stupid I'd been to think she'd choose anything over us. I'm sorry, I whispered against her lips. I'm sorry I doubted you, sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry too. I should have told you about the application earlier, should have made it clear that no job could compete with what we have. What do we have? I asked, needing to hear her say it. Everything. Claire cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. We have love, partnership, trust. We have a future worth building together. Even if my career tanks, then we'll build something new. Together. The certainty in her voice made my chest tight with emotion. This was what I'd been too scared to believe, that Claire's love was strong enough to weather uncertainty, patient enough to wait through investigation and career rebuilding. I love you, I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. I love you too, no matter what comes next. The kiss that sealed our reconciliation tasted like forgiveness and promises, like the beginning of something unshakable. 6 months later, Claire's key turned in our front door. Officially our door now, since we'd combined apartments into a space that accommodated both specimen displays and technical equipment. The federal investigation had cleared me completely last month, and my demolition company welcomed me back with a promotion and backlog of projects. How was the museum board meeting? I called from the kitchen, where I was reviewing permits for tomorrow's controlled blast. Incredible. Claire appeared in the doorway, green eyes bright with excitement. They approved our joint research proposal. I looked up from my paperwork, grinning at her enthusiasm. The Urban Demolition Insect Habitat Study? Full funding for 2 years, plus publication budget and travel expenses. She crossed to where I sat, settling onto my lap like she belonged there. We're officially scientific partners now. Among other things, I nuzzled her neck, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume mixed with preservation chemicals. Dr. Claire Jenkins and Madison Hughes, documenting insect life in urban demolition sites. It has a nice ring to it. Our collaboration had started accidentally, Claire photographing specimens at my work sites, me providing technical expertise about blast patterns and habitat disruption. When she suggested turning it into formal research, I'd been amazed by her vision of combining our skills into something academically valuable. There's something else, Claire said, suddenly nervous. The board meeting wasn't just about funding. What do you mean? She reached into her jacket pocket, pulling out a small velvet box that made my heart stop completely. I mean, I've been carrying this around for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Claire. Madison Hughes, you are the most amazing woman I've ever known. Her voice shook slightly as she opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a perfectly cut diamond. You're brave, brilliant, passionate, and you see beauty in both creation and destruction. Tears filled my eyes as she continued. You protected me during the worst experience of my life, fought for us when I was too scared to choose love over security. You make me laugh, you challenge me intellectually, and you've turned my quiet, ordered world into something vibrant and unpredictable. Is this really happening? Will you marry me? Claire's smile was radiant despite her obvious nervousness. Will you be my wife, my research partner, my forever person who finds beetles at blast sites? Yes. The word came out as a whisper, then stronger. Yes, absolutely yes. Claire slipped the ring onto my finger with trembling hands, and I pulled her into a kiss that tasted like tears and laughter and promises. The ring fit perfectly, just like everything else about us. I can't believe you proposed to me, I said against her lips. Someone had to. You've been dropping hints about commitment for months. I have not been dropping hints. Madison, you introduced me to your insurance agent as your future wife. I laughed, remembering. Okay, maybe subtle hints. About as subtle as your controlled explosions. We moved to the couch, Claire curled against my side while I admired the ring-catching lamplight. Everything about this moment felt right. Her warmth against me, our combined sense mingling, the comfortable silence of two people completely at peace with their choices. When do you want to do this? I asked. Soon. Something small, just us and a few friends. Maybe at the museum, surrounded by specimens? Perfect. I tilted her chin up to meet my eyes. Though I should warn you, marrying a demolition expert means your life will always involve some level of controlled chaos. And marrying an entomologist means yours will always involve tiny creatures and preservation chemicals. Sounds like a perfect combination. Claire's answering smile lit up her entire face. I love you, future Mrs. Hughes. I love you too, future Mrs. Hughes. The kiss that followed sealed our engagement and our future. Two women who'd found in each other the perfect balance of destruction and preservation, chaos and order, passion and patience. As we planned our wedding and research partnership, surrounded by specimen cases and blast calculations that represented our individual passions, I marveled at how perfectly our lives had woven together. What started as shared photos on an entomology forum had become something unbreakable, a love story built on mutual respect, intellectual compatibility, and the kind of trust that could survive kidnapping and career crises. Some explosions, I realized, created rather than destroyed. Some preservation work involved keeping love alive rather than mounting specimens. Claire and I had found the perfect formula for both. Our future stretched ahead like a controlled detonation, carefully planned, beautifully executed, and guaranteed to create something amazing from the carefully arranged pieces of our individual lives.